Okay, so we are the Cosmoshox. We are from Wichita State University. We submitted a proposal in October of last year, and found out in December that we were accepted for this proposal, which we'll go into really in depth with you guys later about exactly what we did and what we will be doing. We found out as well that we were paired with Columbia University. They will be our co-team when we go down to Houston in May. And they were tasked with a heads-up display, basically what the astronaut would be seeing when they're on their mission. So they'll be doing that part. And as Chuck had mentioned, we're doing the pressurized rover part. So it's more virtual reality, and we'll also be dealing with some AI. So we will be teaching AI to help move this pressurized rover around the moon. So throughout the whole process, we will have to be in communication with Columbia. And then once, like I said, when we get down to Houston, we'll be working with them side by side. Everything that we make and that they make has to have interoperability. So we all have to work together to make sure everything is working as a team. We will be building this interface in what we call Unreal Engine, which we'll talk about that more, I believe, later on. NASA will provide all the information that we'll need, but we have to build the stuff that holds the information. So yeah, the interface, we're set to be finished around May. Like I said, we'll be going down to Houston in mid-May to test this out at Johnson Space Center.
And then we have a short intro video here that Anastasia put together that's really cool. So we're going to play that real quick.
We are the Cosmoshox from Wichita State University, and we're excited to be a part of S.U.I.T.S.
Hi, my name is Janice Wong, and I'm one of the design members on the Wichita State Cosmoshox team. One fun fact about our team's home is that there is a Pizza Hut museum on our campus to celebrate the fact that Pizza Hut was created by 2 Wichita State University students. Go Cosmoshox!
Hi, my name is Shabri.
Hi, I'm Jude.
And we're on the design team.
My name is Bella Nish, and I'm a coordinator for human-in-the-loop testing. The Wichita State Cosmoshox team is a uniquely diverse group of students representing 9 different majors within 8 colleges at WSU. Our dynamic range of skills drives creativity and fuels innovative problem solving.
Hi, I'm Sandesh Chaudhary.
Hi, I'm Anastasia Brown.
Hi, I'm Damon Cook, and we're on the development team.
Hi, I'm Sandesh Chaudhary. I'm the member of Team Cosmoshox, and I want to talk about NIAR. NIAR stands for National Institute of Aviation Research, and NIAR is a global leader in the aviation research, offering the cutting-edge facility like the Crash Dynamic Lab, Additive Manufacturing Lab, and Environmental Testing Lab. From the testing the limit of an aircraft to creating the groundbreaking material, NIAR empowers WSU students and their researchers to push the boundaries of what's possible. I'm very happy to be the part of WSU and the Team Cosmoshox. Go Shocker!
My name is Sarah, and I am part of the User Interface Testing team.
Hi, I'm John, and here's another fun fact. Kansas is home to the Cosmosphere, a Smithsonian affiliate museum and science education center featuring spacecraft from NASA's Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs. You can see Liberty Bell 7, Gemini 10, and Apollo 13 up close if you're ever in town visiting.
While designing our rover and heads-up displays, we focused on reducing cognitive load for the users through our UX/UI designs. Our rover display features 3 tabs, with the first being EV Resources, which keeps track of our data. This is what warnings and cautions look like in this tab. The Navigation tab helps keep tabs on EV members' locations. The Geological tab supports geological pursuits on the lunar surface. Cautions for this tab look like this, while warnings for this tab look like this.
So I have a fun fact about Wichita. We are where White Castle was invented, but that's not the fun fact. The fun fact is that we actually don't have one.
Hi, I'm Damon Cook. I'm Team Contact for the Cosmoshox, and I want to talk about our artificial intelligence, Luna. Luna stands for Lunar User Navigation and Tasking Assistant. Essentially, Luna is a virtual assistant that reduces cognitive load and offers AI-powered decision support. Luna will calculate the safest and most efficient paths based on resources remaining, mission time, and lunar geology. Luna is adaptable and will change paths and provide warnings to astronauts if resources run low. Luna will provide mission-critical information such as oxygen and battery remaining for each extravehicular member to keep every member informed. Our goal with Luna is to keep astronauts safe by keeping them up to date with need-to-know information.
So as was mentioned in the video, one thing that makes us really unique compared to a lot of the other schools that apply, we're a very diverse group. We represent at least 9 majors from 8 colleges from Wichita State, and there's only 9 colleges at Wichita State, so we cover most of them. Most of the teams, so we've heard, excuse me, that apply to this program really focus their majors on engineering and computer science. So we have people from design, we're all over the place. So it's really neat and give us a unique perspective when we are creating these things. Like I said, we were selected in December, so we haven't known for very long that we're going down to NASA, and our partners are Columbia. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit more about what exactly S.U.I.T.S is, what the Open XR Lab is, and more about Wichita State. But yeah, before we get into that, we're going to kind of take a step back. I'm going to hand it over to John. He's going to go into a little bit of Apollo, a little history lesson.
It's going to be very quick on this because I think after all of the 50th anniversary celebrations, especially this group knows a lot about Apollo, I think. So during the Apollo program, there were 6 lunar landing missions. 12 humans walked on the moon during the Apollo program. The first 3 missions were all done with exploration by foot. So 11, 12, and 14, the astronauts were basically confined to the distance that they could walk away from the limb. The lunar roving vehicle was introduced on Apollo 15, 16, and 17, and that enabled the astronauts to do a lot more exploration on the lunar surface. During Apollo 15, astronauts David Scott and Jim Irwin drove a total of 27.8 kilometers, so about 17 miles, over 3 hours of driving time. So it allowed them to go to places that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do on foot. And that's a picture from Apollo 15 right there. During Apollo 16, we'll talk about the Lunar Grand Prix here in just a second. During Apollo 16, astronauts John Young and Charlie Duke covered 26 kilometers during 3 hours and 26 minutes of drive time, during which John Young, who I think was the astronaut's astronaut, put the rover through its paces, as is shown in this great Cosmosphere video.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm not going to break it. About anything. That's all, Mark. That max acceleration? No. Man, you are really bouncing. Is he on the ground at all? That's 10 kilometers. Huh? He's got about 2 wheels on the ground. It's a big rooster tail out of all 4 wheels. And as he turns, he skids, the back end breaks loose just like on snow. Come on back, John. Okay, the deck is running. Man, I'll tell you, Indy's never seen a driver like this. The craters and starts bouncing is when he gets his rooster tail. He makes sharp turns. Hey, that was a good stop. Those wheels just locked. Mark off. Okay. Do you want to do it one more time? Yeah. At about a minute, 5 seconds that time. Mark on. Okay, you could have gone the other way. Go ahead. There's the big craters there, though, aren't they? Yeah, I don't know one of those holes. 4 minutes for it, John. Well, it's 1 minute and 5. Maybe you can do it twice more. Surely. Okay, turn sharp. I have no desire to turn sharp. Okay, here's a Sharpie. Hey, that's great. Man, those things, when those wheels really dig in, John, when you turn, it's when you get the rooster tail. The suspension system on that thing is fantastic.
That sounds good. We sound like we've probably got enough of the Grand Prix. We're willing to let you go on from here. Call that a Grand Prix.
Okay. Man, that was all four wheels off the ground there. Okay, Max, stop. Okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, excuse me. They say that's a no-no. Okay, deck off, mark.
So yeah, great video there. The lunar roving vehicle had a top speed of about 12 miles an hour. So that had to have been the slowest Grand Prix anywhere on or off Earth. And then the final Apollo mission that had the lunar roving vehicle was Apollo 17. They broke another record for this mission, driving over 35.9 kilometers in 4 hours and 26 minutes of driving. So with each mission, they pushed the boundaries of what they were able to do with the lunar roving vehicle. The development of the LRV was pretty wild too. It went from basically the design concept to finished working on the moon in about 17 months. So it was a very, very quick development timeline. And one thing that you'll see here, this is the control panel for the LRV. So the instrumentation that they had was very primitive back during the Apollo days. What we're able to do now with modern computers, with AI, totally different, just leaps and bounds more powerful than what they were able to do during the Apollo program. And then if you see here, if you can see the little pointer here, that was the hand control that they steered with. They had very basic instrumentation like speed, the heading. There was an internal, like a gyro that would keep track of where they were on the lunar surface. So really basic compared to the navigation systems that we're going to be able to do today for the Artemis program. And that takes us to the upcoming human missions that will return astronauts to the moon. It was announced in 2017 as part of Space Policy Directive 1. These series of international missions, American-led international missions, will start with human missions, hopefully in 2026 with Artemis 2. Artemis 3 will be the first mission to send humans to the lunar South Pole. That one is scheduled to launch no earlier than mid-2027. That could slip a little bit just depending on how everything is developed. And what's cool about Artemis is it really is an international effort. Countries have been joining the Artemis Accords. They're contributing their unique ways, their capabilities. Canada, European countries, Asian countries. There's tons of people involved with this program. And what's cool with the Artemis program too is it's opening up opportunities for students to help do research, and that's where I'm going to hand it off here to Dameron, and we're going to talk about the NASA Suits Challenge.
So, what is NASA Suits exactly? Essentially, NASA Suits is a design challenge for college students created by NASA to design user interfaces for future spaceflight needs. So it's essentially going to be a modern version of the lunar rover control that John showed earlier is what we are developing. So as a team, we took a human-centered approach to make a usable and readable user interface for future flights on the moon, future space flights. So the designs were first built on paper, then into Figma, and then we placed them into a proposal, which we submitted to NASA, and we were accepted in December, last month. So, yeah, next slide. Essentially, NASA Suits is a design challenge. Yeah, next slide. We already covered this. Now, hand it off to Anastasia to cover what our OpenXR lab is at Wichita State.
Alrighty, hi. So OpenXR Lab is a laboratory that researches that's focus is on the process and behaviors of multidisciplinary teams, so teams that have multiple disciplines, like how we have all, like 8 colleges, or not all, but in the development of implementation of emerging technologies with special focus on establishing psychological safety in early team development. Next slide, please. And so Cosmoshox is run out of OpenXR Lab. We support 10 students annually with funds from the College of Innovation and Design and some partial funding from Kansas Space Grant Cosmotorium. We also have to apply for some grants too to help, get help with our funds. The Cosmoshox has two programs mainly, which is the NASA Suits Challenge Team, which is what we are on, and then the Kansas NASA S.Core Research Team. And then our reach, we have 58 students who have been a part of, the Cosmoshox as a total. We have reached 8 colleges. 60% of students are traditionally underrepresented in STEM have been reached, and by underrepresented, that includes women, minorities of Black, Hispanic, or Latino, Native American. We've reached some disabled, first-generation college students, and Pell Grant recipients.
So a little bit more depth into the timeline to see how crazy our schedule is. So we are all full-time students. We're a mix of undergrad and graduate students. We all first met in August, right around when school started. And we all applied to be on Cosmoshox. Not everybody made it, unfortunately, but we did. And so this is our timeline going forward. So in September, we actually came here to the Cosmosphere. We have a little picture of us to get to know everybody, started off the team, kind of get to know everybody. Through September and October, we worked on our research, getting our proposal ready, which, like I said previously, was due October 31st of 2024. November and December, until we found out if we made it or not, was kind of a time to relax and final season. So we did our finals, and then we found out in December that we got into the program. Since then, we have met a handful of times over the winter break, and we have started to do some training. Actually, once we're done with you guys, we're all headed back to Wichita for today and tomorrow to do all-day training of what we need, just to basic skills for us to all to communicate together when we're going through this process. Tomorrow we meet our NASA mentor. So NASA will give us a mentor. We have not met them, obviously we meet them tomorrow. They are a Wichita State grad, so they'll just kind of be there to help us through this whole process. February, we're really gonna start designing and building, laying down the foundation of what we're gonna need, especially that AI. That's kind of the one that we're the most nervous about, I think, because none of us have a whole lot of experience, but it's all right, we're gonna do great. So through February and March, we're going to be designing. We're doing more public outreach. So if you want to follow us, you can come see us again. Talk more will probably be better because you guys are our first time. And then in April, we're really going to kick it off. We're going to make sure that we have all of our stuff going. We will have to submit stuff to NASA to prove that we're actually doing what we said and we're making progress. And then in May is our test week. So we will travel down to Houston, to Johnson Space Center, and we will be testing it with our team members from Columbia University, and they have a rock, which is pictured up there, the rock yard at Johnson Space Center. This is last year's team that made it as well, and we will be testing there with them. Also, I don't know if we've talked about this, but we will be doing it at night because we were assigned the south pole of the moon, so we will be doing it in dark in Houston at the NASA rock yard, and we're really excited.
Which is probably good because it gets really hot there during the day.
Real toasty in Houston.
Okay, so let's talk about the user experience and user interface design. So this is the principles that we keep in mind whenever we're actually designing the interface that you saw in the short video earlier. So starting with UX, or user experience. Simply put, UX is all about how you interact with a product and how that interaction feels for you as the user. So imagine using the search bar on Google. It's designed so that when you type something in, it feels simple and natural, easy to use. And that's by no accident. Designers carefully create these experiences so they're intuitive and reduce cognitive load, which is at the forefront of all of our designs for NASA. UX sits at the intersection of business, engineering, and design. Think of it as the bridge connecting technology with the people who use it, people like us. Whether it's finding a recipe online or using your phone to check the weather, UX ensures it's a smooth and pleasant experience for everyone. Next slide. And then our
next part of that is the user interface. So going into the user interface, this is the visual side of things. So it's what you see and interact with whenever you use that technology. If we stick with the Google search bar example, UI includes the search bar itself, the buttons you click, and the layout of the results page that you see. It's the visual system that helps you navigate a system easily. Everything you see on a screen, like tabs, icons, and buttons, it's part of the UI. It's all deliberately designed to make using a product as clear and straightforward as possible. And that brings us to an important point: accessibility and inclusivity in design. Accessibility is about ensuring everyone, regardless of age or ability, can use the product. For instance, good UI designs considers things like larger font sizes, high contrast colors for better visibility, and clear labels, sometimes through the use of icons, iconography, things like that. It's also about listening to feedback through testing and improving the design to make it better for everyone. So to conclude, UX is the experience, UI is the interface that creates that experience. Together, they make technology easier and more enjoyable for all of us. These concepts might sound a bit technical, but they affect the tools and technology that we use every day. By focusing on UX and UI, we're working to create designs that are seamless, accessible, and most importantly, useful for everyone.
So the designs that we make are going to exist in virtual reality, and to explain what virtual reality is, it's simply a way of immersing yourself into a virtual world through the means of a headset. So when you put on a virtual reality headset on, it gives you an immersive simulation of a different world. This has many different applications, but one very serious one is education, as it can let a user simulate a scenario with like very little risk. So, for instance, NASA could let you feel what it's like to be standing on the moon. Next slide. So, NASA is very cool. NASA created basically a VR world that's just a representation of what the moon would be like at the lunar South Pole. It's called Dust, and it was made using a video game engine, so that we're going to be working inside of that video game engine to create everything that we're doing for NASA suits.
Excellent. And one thing on Dust too is it uses data from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, so they weren't just like randomly placing things. There is actual data that has been gathered that is the basis for this. So.
Yeah. I'm Ernie Wright. I work in the Scientific Visualization Studio at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. We're looking at a computer model of the view at the South Pole of the Moon. This is...
Yeah. We are seeing over here like the South Pole, how we're going to see the elevation. And along with that elevation, it says that where the shadows move in the South Pole, well in the crater. And it shows that the interaction between the sun, moon, and the earth mainly. Yeah, over here. Then there is a kind of little darkness kind of thing on the crater where the sunlight doesn't reach. And from there, we can say that it make a really harsh environment for us to work on that. And yeah.
Okay, so we're going back into the designs and how we use the dust and those kind of visuals to help us frame our designs. So these are the designs that we did for the pressurized rover. So it's separated into 3 tabs. We figured this was the easiest way to condense all of the information that we are going to have to organize into an easily understandable way. So the 3 tabs are EV resources, navigation, and geological. So for the first tab, there's a few constants that we have on every single tab, one of those being the mission timer, things that just need to be at the forefront every single time. But this specific tab, its main purpose is to track the EV1 and the EV2's data and live feed that they are seeing. It also displays the task procedures, like a list of things that they're about to engage in. That just reduces the cognitive load, so they don't have to think about that. It's already done for them, and it does it in a way that's easy to understand. And then on the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that that's the LTV telemetry, so all of the data and then the LTV feed, same as it was for the EV1 and EV2. And the reason why we did this is because, like I said before, there's some information that needs to be shown at all time to help everybody that's on the mission. But the data needs to be concise, but informative at the same time. There are some things that you have to know no matter what screen you're on, or how much, even though we want it to be simple and aesthetically pleasing or anything like that, there are some things that just have to be on there. So organizing that in a way that's easy to understand, but also informative was a bit of a challenge, but I think we figured it out. And the next slide, the next slide shows what an error or a caution would look like. So the purpose of this, we didn't want it to overwhelm the user because sometimes the errors may not be life-threatening, they just need to be something that they look out for. So we decided to display it in this way because it still alerts the user, but it doesn't take away from the other data that's necessary for them to see, such as the feeds or their task procedures, things like that. Next slide. This next slide is the navigation tab. So the purpose of this is to inform the user of the rover's position and data while still monitoring the team members. So it's very rover focused. As you can see on the left-hand side, it's got all of the rover data. No, you're good. I think 2 more past that. There we go. So it's got some of the rover telemetry data that I talked about earlier, as well with the map. And here's where some of like the iconography and things like that come in to help reduce cognitive load. You can see on the map icon, it's got some pins that are easily identifiable of what we're looking at. You can see that the different craters, elevation. At the very bottom, the map uses kind of like the iconography to zoom in, zoom out, drop a pin on the map, pan around the map with the hand motion. It's got a legend in the top right-hand corner. And then moving back over to the left side for some more iconography, you can see the roll and pitch of the rover. That would be something you need to keep track of while you're moving around on the moon. And then as well as some of the important data, the battery, speed, things like that. So that's the navigation tab. And then the next slide shows the geological tab. This mission that we're preparing for is very geological heavy, so it's a lot of taking rock samples from the moon, things like that. So we decided that there needed to be a whole separate interface for that, since it was so important to the mission. So that required its own tab. And you can see it's a little bit similar to the EV resources where you have the EV1, EV2 feeds, but it's got some important features that make it different from the EV resources, where it lists the actual geological samples, what data we would get from that, what it composes the rock sample that we just took. It also kind of combines the navigation tab to look at the map that's shown right there. And the purpose of that is because what samples we might pick up might differ based on where we're at in the moon. So it's important to kind of mark our location where we picked up what samples. You can also take a picture of the EV feeds, like with a little picture button right there. So it's a lot of iconography and everything like that to really reduce the cognitive load and make it easy as possible for the people who have more complicated things going on. So we're trying to help them out a little bit. And then the next slide shows what errors would look like in these tabs. And you can tell that these errors pop up a lot differently than the previous errors that I showed you. And the purpose of that is because this doesn't have the data listed out in a table. So there has to be another way to show those errors. So we did that in the form of a bigger message that comes across, since they wouldn't be looking at that data 24/7 like they were in the other tab. So there's those kinds of decisions that we have to make while designing these things to just make it as easy and simple as possible for the astronauts and the people on the mission.
Alrighty, next slide. So I'm going to be talking about what we have done already in 2024. So we started off by going to the Cosmosphere here to, get to know each other a little bit and also learn a little bit more about like space. And John already was the one who knew most of it. The rest of us were as knowledgeable on space travel.
So you're saying I'm a giant nerd?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's
maybe
all right.
Just a little
Guilty.
bit. So we learned about how many people were involved in like the entirety of the space travel process. And then, so that was how we, got to meet each other. And then next slide. This is whenever we started to work. So we started by making a journey map. So this was, helping us understand how our user interfaces were going to be used. We did it by putting a bunch of sticky notes on our whiteboard in the Cosmoshox room in the OpenXR lab. So we put it down, and then it outlined how our HUD would be used, our heads-up user display, for the EVA members. Then we looked at what do we need to make, and what would our design, we want our UIs to do for us. And then this helped us prepare for a human-oriented approach. Through our journey map, we discovered that we wanted the astronauts to interact with our design using voice command rather than, a mouse or any other way to interact. This way they could use their hands freely. We also found that eye tracking technology would be impaired by the solar conditions of the South Pole. So the journey map helped us inform our decisions before we started designing. Next slide.
And one thing to add too, when we were doing the proposal, we had to design for the heads-up display and the pressurized rover because we didn't know what we were going to be chosen to build. So that's why we're talking about like the eye tracking and stuff like that, because we did build a design for a spacesuit heads-up display and then a rover display, which will be like a regular computer monitor with a keyboard too.
So then we hit crunch time. After we figured out what we wanted our designs to be and do, we had to submit our proposal by October 31st, and so we were coming close to that due date. We started to do some research for our design. This way our UIs were informed. We looked at design theory and cognitive load theory. That way, the designs had some backup as well as they wouldn't overload the astronauts. We looked into how our designs with Unreal Engine would work. We had to make sure that they could be built and were feasible before we said we are going to be able to build this and then not be able to build it. Once our research was complete, we started developing our designs. Like making a thumbnail before painting or sketches. We made sketches of our designs on paper and little sticky notes, and then we made them digitally. You can see these photos we were discussing our designs and putting them, in little parking lots. Like on this bottom one, there's a bunch of sticky notes, and that was our parking lot for all of our ideas. This rapid iterative approach allowed us to test designs faster and hammer out designs that everyone was happy with, engineers and designers alike. After we finally had everything designed out, we wrote up our proposal, tossed in our designs, and turned it into NASA. After a month of waiting, NASA told us we were finally accepted. Here we have our outreach. So as part of S.U.I.T.S, we have to do outreach, like this talk here today. And so on the next slide, we will have some QR codes that you could follow for Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can also search hashtag Cosmoshox to find our posts, from our team on social media accounts. But the official accounts on the next slide are two good places to look. The Spacesuit podcast will also feature some Cosmoshox content and interviews during this semester if you prefer listening and watching the podcasts. Another thing we do with our outreach is we make sure, like on the social medias, we make sure that it is both in English and Spanish, so that way we can help reach more underrepresented communities in STEM.
And at that point, we're going to open it up to questions that y'all might have. So thank you for letting us talk about it. Yeah.
A lot of your discussion here was about design. Is that limited to electronic design, or are there any other aspects of space technology?
So we can all talk about this a little bit, but the S.U.I.T.S is a challenge, is a design challenge. So we're working specifically just with the user interfaces and the software side of it, not necessarily the hardware. So, and then there's somebody in the white too. Back.
What is EV and what is LTV? EV is extra.
So EV is extravehicular, so that means that there's going to be, imagine 3 astronauts. 2 of them are walking. Yes, those are the people walking. The LTV will be the person in the vehicle who might need to pick them up or something to keep them safe.
You mentioned pressurized. Is this like a shirt-sleeve environment? Or will they be suits?
We talked about that a lot. We weren't sure either. Essentially, it will be like a vacuum sealed. Is it?
Yeah. So like the interface that we're doing is going to be like agnostic. So like if it's pressure, like if it's shirt sleeve or if they're in a suit and not wearing their helmet, doesn't really matter. But it's not like the Apollo rover that was open where they were basically sitting on lawn chairs, having the rooster tails of dust come up on them. So it will be a more comfortable environment for the rover. So did that answer?
This is a simple question. Where's the display located? Is this in the helmet, virtual reality, heads-up display, or is this on the rover console itself?
So it is going to be in virtual reality. In virtual reality, you are going to be inside of the rover, and then you'll see another screen that is what we're building. That is like inside of the rover itself. Do I need to explain that again?
Is this actually going to be used on the moon, or is this just for training and public outreach, simulation?
This is more for training. Technically, NASA owns what we're going to make. So like, hey, if they want to use some ideas, they have full permission to do so. But it is mostly training, yes.
Okay. And it's written in C++, I assume?
There's going to be some C++. There's also going to be, because we're working in a games engine, they're going to have their own scripting language that we're going to be using as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any more questions? And we love the technical stuff. That was a good question. So,
as you can see from the audience here, most of us who are interested enough to come to this presentation, we follow the space exploration history from Walter Cronkite and his coverage of Neil Armstrong first putting his foot on the moon, and earlier. And looking at your age, you're obviously a little bit younger than we are. One question that always comes up in the half century that I followed this operation, going to the moon, space exploration, is why? Why the moon? Why do we need to go to the moon? There's the obvious answer to that, development of new technologies, discoveries, and so forth. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on the matter. Why are we going to the moon?
It's a deep question for a Thursday morning. I like it. I know everybody's probably got their own reason. Obviously there's the spin-off benefits of creating space technologies. What we do in space will benefit life here on Earth. There's also just the human adventure of it too. Going to the moon and exploring a new world in person, I think is pretty cool. We can do some stuff with robots, but actually being there with your own eyes, I think is a meaningful goal in and of itself. But just for me, I can't speak for everybody else on that, but.
So I would say there's 2 reasons for why I think of doing it. It's because it's there would be reason number 1, and then number 2 would be the area we're going in specifically is the lunar South Pole, and there are NASA has reasons to believe that there are resources in the bottom of the craters that have never seen light, such as water, so that the moon could become a sort of spaceport to so we could access the rest of the stars as well.
Yeah, I believe that the moon gonna be base for the future mission, because we're gonna set, I think I have read an article that NASA gonna set the base on the moon, like to explore from moon, Earth to moon, and moon to Mars. It's gonna be like that.
Any other questions? That was a good one. Yeah, in the back.
I understand that you represent 8 different colleges in Wichita University. I'd like to know which colleges you are involved in and what drew you specifically, shortly, into this project.
So I'm College of Fine Arts. I'm a game design major. Main thing that drew this to me was like, it sounded interesting and was like, I could be able to help with it. I know what they're going to be coding in. So it was like a fun experience that I just wanted to be a part of.
I'm also a part of the College of Fine Arts. I'm a graphic design major. The thing that drew me to it is I knew that in my entire life I would never have an experience like this. I would never be able to have a NASA mentor or say that I was a part of even talking to NASA. I didn't think I would ever be able to say that. So I wanted to grab that opportunity as soon as I could.
I'm in the College of Engineering. I'm a graduate engineering student, and I actually work here in the summer. I'm a camp director, so I love space. And one of my other camp directors from last year did this program previously, and she was talking to me about it, and so I kept my eye out and applied. And yeah, so I think I've always loved space. I don't want to go, but I would like to work on getting people there.
Did you mention your college?
Yeah, engineering.
Yeah, I'm also in College of Engineering. I'm in the aerospace department. By the way, it's gonna be cool for me, like getting some experience on that software side, along with the computer language, like the C++ and the Python. It's gonna be cool using on this project.
Yep. I'm also College of Fine Arts on the side of game design. So it was recommended to me to join this project as from a professor, and I thought it'd be like a really cool idea to try and build some more experimental sort of technology for it. And I got like really into the project the more I learned about it.
And now you're team lead. I know. And now he's team lead. I am Masters of Innovation Design, so I'm looking into a lot of UX, UI design. Previously, I was a political science major for my undergrad, which is kind of what opened up with my history minor to just dive into the history of the space program, which is why I'm such a giant nerd about that. And I think just for everybody, that's what's so cool about WSU is we have a more interdisciplinary team than any other college in the country. So we bring a lot of diverse background. And I think that was what was cool when we were designing everything is you were looking at it as like games. We had people looking at it from graphic design, from engineering. I mean, me, I nerd out on the history stuff. So like comparing like an old paper map that they used in Apollo to a digital topographic map that they're going to use during the Artemis program, it just brings some cool perspective having all of those different viewpoints. So good question. And we do have about a third of our team was able to make it today. So yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Are you doing the control interface, or is it just the information display that you're working on?
A little bit of both. There's somebody behind you asking a question first.
Yes, you mentioned a couple of times, at least on the slides, that you're partnering with Columbia University. What part does Columbia play in all this? Or are you kind of functioning as independent entities?
We're going to figure that out as we go. Columbia is going to be building like what somebody who's walking on the moon, like what they would see through their headset, basically. That's what they're developing, and then we're developing what the person in the LTV would see, and then they have to like kind of come together and work together in May. So we're keeping in contact with them, making sure that everything that we do works together is the idea.
And that's one of the big things for the challenge that they paired schools together is interoperability for spaceflight is critical. I mean, there's international agreements for like the rescue of astronauts, you know, international agreements for like docking mechanisms. It's also for us, like having that interoperability just kind of trains people at the college age to be thinking about that interoperability from the get-go. So that's why we're partnering with Columbia. So good question though. Any more? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Just once again, a reminder that the next Coffee at the Cosmo is going to be on March 20th.